What's up, folks? This is Dan from Discern, and these are my thoughts on the new album from Oscar Urbina, Molly Pitcher. Oscar Urbina is a rapper from Miami, Florida, who graduated from Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, who was a theology teacher for a time in New York City, and who has an undeniable talent for lyrical manipulation and wordplay. His debut mixtape called Finally was released on CTF Records in January 2014. Thought that was a great first step for Oscar. Solid lyrics, bold flow, dynamic production. But only a year after his mixtape's release, CTF Records disbanded. Even so, Oscar has made enough waves in the Christian hip-hop community that it looks like he's still rolling on. And now he's released his second mixtape called Molly Pitcher. This album's title is derived from the tales and stories of a real woman from the American Revolution who was remembered as a hero for doing the simple and ordinary task of bringing water to soldiers. And as Oscar learned more about Molly Pitcher's story, it caused him to remember and reflect on how it's the little things in life that leave an impact on others. And that's his hope for this album. It's a little thing in the grand portrait of life, but he hopes that it will be meaningful and impactful to some. One of the first things I noticed about Oscar's style is he's a very relatable rapper. Some rappers feel distant and foreign. They seem to rap about generalities and theoreticals. I mean, that goes for artists of almost any genre. They rap about situations and experiences that we understand, but we don't deeply connect to because they're too figurative. They're too only in your head. Oscar gets into the details. He opens up for you to connect with him, whether in comical, dorky ways or in authentic and bold ways. And he alters back and forth between those two styles. He can be an immature goofball on one line, making you laugh, and a mature, grown man on the next, making you think. Here's an example, I guess, from the title track, Molly Pitcher. He's got some lines about welcoming you into his mind, as he says, bringing tourists inside my brain. And he metaphorically opens the door for you and says, the line is, welcome, welcome, I'm glad you found the address. We got chips to the right and fruit punch on the left. Nice. And then a few bars later he says, I was trying to be smart. I was proof that just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean you have the heart. That's weighty. That's something I think many of us can relate to. I know I can. And he likes to mix these two styles together and drop bars that are quirky, sort of comical, but also carry profound truth or strong emotion. For example, another line from that title track, go to the past with me when I lived in Queens, when I lost my queen, when I tried to deal with my sorrows by eating Dairy Queen. Part of the line is lighthearted, sort of embarrassing, eating your sorrows away, but also I'm pretty sure he just told you, he lost his girlfriend, who he calls his queen, and he digs into that a little bit more on other tracks where you learn he was close to marrying this girl, and that this experience taught him a lot, made him research a lot about relationship failures, about the complexities of relationships between a man and a woman. But on that one line, the weight of what he went through in that breakup is quickly replaced by the dorky picture of him eating Dairy Queen through tears. Production on this mixtape is mostly down-tempo and chill, still dynamic and varied though, both in the vibe and the specific sounds and the beats. There's some trap moments, stuttering hi-hats, bellowing bass, like on the songs This Is My Life and Shine That Light. There's also some chilled out, very groovy moments, utilizing some vocal samples, like on Mazda Protege and Well Okay. And there's even some usage of live or maybe very quality synth instruments like the piano on Integrity or the electric guitar on Shine That Light. And on the vocal side of the production, I really appreciate how crisp and audible Oscar's vocals are. Some rappers, are nearly impossible to understand lyrically, as you try to hear past their slurring, the mumbling, the general twisting and bending of the words, some of which is certainly a purposeful artistic expression. But Oscar is so easy to understand. I don't need a lyric sheet as I listen. I couldn't find one, but I don't need one anyway. I may need to, rewind a handful of times because his bars are usually pretty packed and sometimes multi-layered. One line plays off the next or the next few lines. But these tracks, especially the vocals, are mixed and recorded really well. Sharp, snappy phrases with a lot of percussion and rhythm to them. Now, let's get into the specific tracks, or get into a few of them. Mazda Protege, the hook on that song is so cleverly subversive to the baller image of having a flashy whip to cruise around in. He's jokingly boasting about a sick car, big pimpin' in a Mazda Protege. And you should Google that car if you don't know what it looks like. It is a totally ordinary compact car, like a high school kid's first car. Cruising in that whip for sure. He's basically saying, yeah, my music is for those ordinary moments, like driving your Mazda Protege and feeling the wind in your hair. Big pimpin'. The track Up and Comer is a great selection of features from guys in really similar places in their rap careers. All three rappers actually on this track, Oscar Urbina, No Big Deal, and Lauren, were listed as Rapzilla freshmen in 2015. They're all guys to be watching for sure. And Serge, who carries the hook, does a great job as well. On his own records, I think he's better in a singing role than in a rapping role. So I really dug him on this track. The track Well Okay, probably my favorite on the mixtape. It's got a sweet EDM-inspired vocal sample, subtle but still exciting. The beat and Oscar's flow are just so tightly knit, such a head-bobbing groove. And the production has this broken but determined feel to it, which is reflected in the lyrics, of someone who experienced failure, but they determined to dig in, to use this moment to learn, figure out how to grow, be ready when this situation comes around again. And this track has my favorite lyric on this project. True peace is when you pop champagne after a loss. That is a good one. That is a good line. Clever, insightful, true. Love it. Next track, Ya Tu Sabe, which means you know it, is quirky, mostly silly. Reminds me of like Outkast from the early 2000s. Pretty funny hook, too. If you say that you're cooler than me, does that make me hotter than you? That's how you spin it around, I guess. Second to last track, Love Has Got Me Growing. Not a bad song, but it's not Oscar's normal style, at least for the first portion. There's a lot more singing, rapping, singing/rapping going on. Very floaty, airy vocal style rather than more of a juking and energetic flow. Like I said, not terrible, but I guess I just didn't really get it as far as the different vocal style. Also, the second half of the song transitions into the darkest and most orchestral and full production on the record, with a hefty dose of vocal speed and quickness, making up for the first half, I guess. He slips a line in there at the end, hinting at Molly Pitcher 2. So there's that. You never know if those call-outs hold any water. Is he really working on Molly Pitcher 2, or is that just sort of a pie in the sky? Yeah, maybe one day. Who really knows? I'd love it if Molly Pitcher 2 does come out. Weirdest decision of all, though, on this mixtape comes at the very end. The first track, Molly Pitcher, and the last track, Molly Pitcher Vibes, are identical from a vocal and lyrical perspective, and only slightly different in production. The piano sounds almost the same, maybe a few steps down, maybe some added effects to dull the sound a bit. It just sounds a little more mid-rangey rather than high up. The beat sounds like some of the sounds were just swapped out. Different hi-hats, different snare, different kick. But the groove is the same. The melodies are the same. This is not a remix, it's a repeat. I really, really don't understand the purpose of this, other than it It does end the album right where it began. The things you learned along the way during the mixtape sort of help you interpret the song when it comes around again at the end. But even so, I'd rather it's not repeated. I mean, after a few times through this album, after this song has become more familiar to me, I just ended up skipping the last track. I mean, I already heard it. So if I want to hear it again, I'll cue up track 1. Anyway, last thing I want to mention is if you've listened to Oscar Urbina's debut mixtape, you may have been expecting more spoken word sections from this album. There isn't much of that here, at least not in long sections, whole verses. But it seems like his spoken word background, which I'm speculating at a bit. I don't know how much spoken word he has in his background. If he does, though, I feel like I can hear the influences. Primarily, I notice it in how percussive and purposefully chosen his words are. Rhyme and meaning aren't the only reasons for using specific words and arranging them in a specific way. He has a superb flow and a groove to his rapping, which is bolstered by his use of smooth and choppy words. I mean, depending on what he's going for. His lyrics are pretty good. I mean, a few eye roll moments, a few struggle bars for sure. But overall, they're good. And his words, though, sound equally good. Even when I'm not paying attention to what he's saying, I'm loving how he's saying it. Another facet of his style, I guess, which is more common in spoken word, is the rhyming of the same word within the same phrase. Often the words carry different meanings, though, or in different contexts. But the use of a singular word to drive the flow, to drive the rhyme, can sometimes come across as lazy. I personally don't think that's what it is here, because I feel like it's that spoken word style influence, where the word rhymes with itself, but the context provides that unique meaning and purpose behind each usage. For example, you got the line, "Nowadays I just want to be a runaway and run away from my problems that never run away." You can feel the rhythm of that sentence, which is made. It's made that way. It's made rhythmic by using the same word. I get that. But each usage of that word brings something new to the table, which is why I don't think it's actually lazy writing. Anyway, in closing, this new mixtape, Molly Pitcher from Oscar Urbina, is available for free from Rapzilla and free from his Bandcamp page. I will link to that in the description. If you like the mixtape, you can also toss him a few bucks over there. He's earned it. I think so, in my opinion. I hope this record, makes a splash, sort of pushes Oscar Urbina to new levels. I think he's a solid talent in the field right now. Getting some decent recognition, especially from sites like Rapzilla. But you know how sometimes records just hit at the wrong time, even when they're pretty good. The summer can often be like that, where records just don't take off. The buzz dies out too quickly. This is the case in other entertainment as well, movies, video games, TV. But I hope he gets the attention, that I think he's warranted. This is seriously one of the best hip-hop albums I've heard in the last few months. So don't sleep on it, folks. If you're into hip-hop, CHH, check this one out. Thank you for watching this album review. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Subscribing is the best way to make sure you don't miss any new album reviews or track reviews. Because remember, new album, I'm getting all mixed up. New album reviews, just like this, release every Friday. And new track reviews release every Wednesday. If you have a question or a comment for me about this album or not about this album, you could comment below this video. You could tweet at me at discernreviews, or you could send me an email, discernreviews@gmail.com. Are you a fan of Oscar Urbina? Have you listened to this new mixtape? What did you think of it? Do you agree or do you disagree with my thoughts? Because my opinions are just that, my opinions. So I want to know what you think too. Anyway, I hope this helped. See ya.